of course, the wonderful dynamic that occurs. Got a little bit of a chuckle there, and when this happens, right? The family life of Jacob and his wives, and then of course spilling into his children, is certainly I don't know the best word of putting it, but lacking in in cohesiveness and in all kinds of different fashions. It is very much a picture of sin, really, and of weakness in relying on your own devices for things. And so we get through this, and we're going to look through it in the lens of as the children are born. And it's interesting. I find it interesting, and certainly to learn from, that each child is named based upon the feeling of the mother at the time. Each child is named based upon the mother's feeling, if you will, during that time frame. And you see some things change as it progresses through that. So as we look at this, just remember that this is a very chaotic family. It is very much a picture of sin and worldliness and weakness contained in that flesh. Very powerful picture of it. I guess the word I was looking for earlier, and it just came to mind, is broken. Right? This family is a broken family throughout much of its life here. So we look through in Genesis 29, if you're not there already. That's where we were at 2 weeks ago. Last week we, of course, talked about sanctity of human life in light of the assassination of Charlie Kirk there. And so this week we'll continue on Genesis 29. And you go down and we will start here, I guess 29. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid, and he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served him yet 7 other years. So the dynamic starts here that, of course, Jacob didn't want to marry Leah, and then he marries Rachel, and it gives us just point blank that he loved Rachel more than Leah, right? And so this whole time period here is from the aspect that Jacob starts with favoring Rachel over Leah. 31, and here's when we'll start getting into the children as we study the children. And they did that intentionally. Like, we don't want Dad to sit by, that's what Robert said. I don't want Dad over by me.
Everyone is on that clock's time.
Yeah, I was.
And Luke aren't here yet.
Yeah, I was for a second there, and then I looked up and I asked a couple people, "What's your cell phone say?" And they were like, "It says that clock's wrong." So, all right. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So here's how it starts: that God actually sees kind of the plight, the emotional damage that's happening to Leah, and he opens her womb. Right, and Rachel is barren at this time. Leah conceived, bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. If I was nice, I would have printed this out for everybody. If you want a copy of this, we can print one later on here. And of course, those online won't be able to see this at all. But it's a chart going through here on the left. Who conceived, who had the child, what they named the child, what the meaning of the name is, and where the biblical reference is of that. So if you want a copy of this, I will print some or make some copies. Just see me afterwards, and I'll give you a copy of that. It's nothing special. I made it in Excel, so it's got lines. But other than that, when I print it out, that's what it's got in it. Ooh, right. Some of the stuff is in bold, so it's just yeah. Yeah, that's going on my resume, proficiency in Excel. Even though Excel is a spreadsheet used for numbers, I used it for Word,
7 used on LinkedIn.
Yeah, should have been, properly I should have used Word, but Excel works. So I actually copied and pasted into Excel from what I had typed. So I typed it out and I thought, this doesn't work on Word. I hate tables. By the way, if you like tables in Word, just don't talk to me. All right. Hate tables. Bob, are you a tables in Word fan? No.
When you said something about Excel, I definitely wanted one.
Yeah. I don't know, squeeze in over there. Nobody will bite you. Very hard. All right. Okay. So when we look at the order, now that we've discussed my Microsoft prowess at length here, properly, I should have made a database, right? A SQL database and linked the data, things like that. Yeah. Yes. Quite probably. All right. So here's the beginning of it. It says in verse number 32, Leah conceived, bare a son. She called his name Reuben. Reuben is the firstborn of Jacob, and he is born to Leah. She called it Reuben. She said, for she said, surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. The name Reuben is loosely translated into behold a son. It's like, behold a son. That's essentially what Reuben means. And that's what she named him. Behold a son, you know. And why did she name him that? Well, because at this time, male children are certainly needed, you know, because that's to carry on the lineage here. And she gets pregnant, and the first child born is a son. And so she names him that. Behold a son. How many, I wonder how many, kids, what everybody's name would be differently. And we're not going to do that exercise because I don't want to open up any wounds on what everybody's name would be if your mother named you after what was going on in her life at the time that she had you, right? Everyone's like, whoa. All right, move right along, Pastor. Don't stop there. But so Reuben here is behold a son. It's really sad. I mean, this verse to me is kind of heartbreaking, right? Because Jacob is not paying attention to her. He paid attention to her all of about 7 days, right, before he gets remarried to Rachel, and he just loves Rachel more. Leah, thinking that she can fix the situation by having a child, right, is just overjoyed that she has a son for him. So she said, behold a son. And it actually says that. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. Right? And this is why I say this is a broken family. Right? This is damage. So she's really encouraged and hopes that Jacob will love her. Now, we know, if you have ever studied through these two chapters here, that express those that were born, and of course there's one child, the last child is born, Genesis 35, but Genesis 29 and Genesis 30 are the most of the children. That this doesn't bring Jacob's heart back to her, right? Jacob still loves Rachel more than her. But she is basing everything on Jacob paying attention to her. And she said, well, I've had the boy. Surely, since Rachel is barren, he will love me now, right? But we know that doesn't happen. Now, he does, she obviously has more children, so it's not like he is totally ignoring her. But we get the feeling that his heart is still with Rachel throughout it, right? As we go and we journey on here. So she conceives Reuben. It's Genesis 29:32. Behold a son. That's his name. I want my husband to love me. I'm glad I have a son. Behold, this is going to change everything. She conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Again, this kind of perpetuates the case that Reuben didn't fix the relationship with Jacob, because she's still saying, hey, the Lord, I got pregnant again, because the Lord looked upon my affliction here and heard that I was hated, and so I had a son named Simeon. Who knows what Simeon is? What's that loosely, if you say it means something, names mean something. What does Simeon mean? Unloved? Oh, yours says unloved? Yeah. When I looked it up in the Hebrew, there had a different name, different thing in there. It had it listed as heard and unloved, right? So it was like heard, like the Lord heard me, right? So she named him Simeon. Now, if yours says unloved, there's probably...
It does say heard. It says
Heard.
unloved for a different word.
Okay. Heard. Simeon means heard, H-E-A-R-D. And again, we get the feeling, and you can get kind of a view of what's going on here as they name the children. Behold a son. Heard. Now she's like, well, I'm going to call him Heard because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, right? How would you like to be named after that thought, right? How did I get my name? Well, your dad hated me, so I called you Simeon because the Lord heard that I was hated, right? Now, we get in a little bit later here, and I'll try to cover some of this if we have time at the end, and I think we will based on that clock. We'll have time on what happened to these children as they grew up into adults. And we're not going to go into big detail for it, but we're going to talk about it at least. So we had Simeon, Heard. Then we go on next, right? She conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi, right? So you look at Levi, and the name loosely translates there into attached. So we have, behold a son, heard, and then attached, right? That's Reuben, Simeon, and then Levi pulls us into there again. So she had Levi, and then verse 35, and she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah and left bearing. So Judah means, I know you know, praise. Yeah, Judah means praise. The one thing we get through on this, I think, is that it takes Leah 4 children before she shifts her attention. Right? The first 3 children are named after who? Or after her attention for whom? Jacob, her husband. Right? She's behold a son. Love me. The Lord heard that I was hated by my husband. Here I've had a 3rd one, and I think that's going to attach my husband closer to me. And none of that comes to fruition. So she gets to the 4th son named Judah, and she says, you know what? I'm going to praise the Lord. I'm going to praise the Lord for what he's given to me. And her attention is kind of changed here. The focus here has shifted from trying to win her husband's love or trying to pull him away from Rachel to praising God. Amen. Right? Now, this is an instrumental moment in her life and in the life of the Bible, because and I don't think I even teach this part of it, but why is Judah important?
The tribe of Judah.
The tribe of Judah, and what comes from the tribe of Judah? Jesus does. Yeah, so the attention shifts, and isn't it just like God to use this attention focus to shift the whole focus of the world, really, that instead of pleasing man, now she's praising God, and through Judah, right, who Christ comes from, right, and so the whole world's attention shifts when Judah comes, right? When the line of the tribe of Judah comes. And Leah here has kind of shifted the focus here from her first 3 to the 4th one being God. So I don't think that that's coincidence, right? And it's just left bearing. Now, those of you who the rest of the story understand that she does have more children, but she has this time in her life where she has these 4 kids. right off the bat, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, behold a son, her detached praise. And then she leaves. She leaves bearing, right? Now, after this son, she praises God for the son. She doesn't talk anything about her husband after this for Judah, but she doesn't stay there, right? She kind of backslides a little bit here and gets upset again, and we'll see that in the next chapter. But Leah has the first four kids. Now, of course, they end up having 13 altogether there, and how many people have 13 kids? That's a lot of kids, right? What's that? Your grandma, right? That's a lot of kids. But after 4, that's a lot of kids. So Genesis chapter 30, we'll go and we'll start hitting the next couple of names here. When Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. Now Jacob really has the right attitude on this one, right? Because what has Rachel just done? Right? This is your fault, right? Give me children or I'm going to die, Jacob. What's your problem, right? But Jacob's like, it says his anger was kindled against Rachel. He said, am I in God's stead, right? Who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb, right? He said, am I God? Right? Am I the one that's preventing you from having children? And I'm not getting graphic, but he can obviously have kids because Leah had kids, right? So how do I word it? He knows it's not his fault. He knows that God is just withholding children, right? But here's Rachel, and she's just upset. Now, can you imagine the amount of jealousy that is raging, that there are 4 boys in the household now, barren, right? So she's angry, right? She's really mad. And it says that she envied her sister, right? And let me, go off of the beaten path here, that envy has a way of leading you into deep sin, right? I mean, when you start getting envious of somebody, you will start to think of doing things that make absolutely no rational sense, right? Envy does that. And if you don't want to believe me on that, watch the news one night, right? Go outside, and go on the, just walk around town. Our society today, I believe, is built on envy. It is absolutely built on it. Everywhere you go, you deserve this, right? They have it. Why not you? Every commercial that I get on my Facebook feed, but believe it or not, you know what I get for commercials on my Facebook feed? Volleyball stuff and equipment, right? And every one of these commercials is this person uses it, and this person, and they're winners. Why haven't you bought this yet? Odds are that everybody else you're playing against has this. Why don't you buy it, right? And it's shoes and it's insoles and it's all this stuff, right? Anybody get these ads, right? Anybody else get ads? Like you get volleyball ads now? Soccer cleats, right? You can run, that 40-yard dash 2.5 seconds faster if you wear these shoes, or if you put this insole in there. You're going to get an extra inch on your jump if you put this insole in there. And all based on envy. Like that person is better than you because of our equipment. So why don't you buy our equipment so you can be better than them, right? You should envy what they're doing. Everything, food, cars, things like that. They're all based on envy, and I think our society has really figured that out. And last week we talked about that I think that's the devil's handiwork, because that enviousness, which of course feeds into pride. Rachel here has envied her sister to the point that now she really has accused God. Jacob, why, you need to get me a child or else I'm going to die, right? And that's where she's at. Then, you know the rest of this account. I know you do. Do you think that if she hadn't envied Leah as much as she did, that the next, and I'll call it a transaction, would have happened? Right? No, I don't think so. I don't believe it would have happened. But she is so envious, so jealous of her sister. She said, you know what? I'm going to devise a scheme, right? I'm going to send in my handmaid, Bilhah. And since I own my handmaid, Bilhah is going to have a child from you, and I'm going to claim it as my own, right? And this will be my child. And this is, I thought you went to raise your hand. No? And so this is what she does. She said, behold my maid, Bilhah. Go in unto her. She shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. All right? And she just kind of comes up with this scheme. All because she's jealous of her sister. She's envious of the 4 sons that her sister has had. And she comes up with this thing. She gave Bilhah her handmaid to wife. Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived, bare Jacob a son. Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice and given me a son. One of the certain false statements, right? There are opportunities, and I got to be careful. We're going to be here for 5 hours tonight because there's a lot to pull out of this. She credits God with giving her the go-ahead on her sin. She does. God's given me a son. No, he hasn't, right? You thwarted God's plan. God's going to use the plan, right? But you thwarted God's plan. Dan is not your child. Right, and that's what she names him Dan, right? And Dan means judge, right? That's what Dan means, judge. She names him that because she sees it as like kind of God vindicating her in this aspect that judging. It's been judged that now I can have a son there. But when she names him judge. It really comes back in the end because Dan is not known as being the most spiritual tribe from Israel. They're really not. They are one of the tribes that absolutely despises the land that they were given. Right? They can't win. They've given up on God, and they go and find somewhere else to go, right? That's the tribe of Dan. If you don't know what I'm talking about, read the book of Judges. And you find out that Dan says, well, we can't win. We're just going to go find our own, what's the word? Inheritance. We're going to go find our own inheritance. Isn't it interesting that Dan is the first child born out of Rachel deciding to find her own inheritance? That she doesn't wait on God. And she says, well, I can't win this battle. I'm barren. I'm not going to have kids. Well, and then Dan, the tribe of Dan later on, decides, well, we're not going to wait on God. We can't trust God. We're going to go find a place for our own inheritance. Right? I think it's an interesting parallel there. And that'll preach if anybody wants to make a message out of that. But Dan then, the tribe of Dan, kind of reflects their birth. Right? They reflect their birth because they decide to have their own inheritance, right? Instead of waiting for God's inheritance there. The name, of course, judge. In Genesis 49, Jacob's giving final words to the kids there. He foretells that Dan will judge his people. And there is a foreshadowing of that, but then he compares him to a serpent that biteth the horse heels. And of course, Dan ends up, just going straight into idolatry and causes all kinds of internal division within Israel from that standpoint. So Dan certainly was not God giving Rachel a son, right? That's not giving you. Now, is it God judging her? I think that's what I think. It's rightly there. I think she misapplied it. She misapplied it. Picked the right name for the wrong reason, right? Picked the right name. But there was a judgment to come on that. And then the sin perpetuates itself, because you notice that Bilhah doesn't have just one kid, right? So now she has given Bilhah to Jacob, and Bilhah has another son, right? It says she conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. Again, you know, talk about a broken, kind of messed up family. What has she prevailed at? You know, she's prevailed at dividing her family and dividing the attention of her husband even further than it was before. And so she names this one Naphtali, which means my struggle. That's my struggle when you look at Naphtali's name. Naphtali is certainly one of those. When you look at him, he describes them as in Genesis 49 as a hind let loose, giveth goodly words. And it was certainly. They were used of God in certain places. There was a famous prophetess, Deborah, came from the tribe of Naphtali there. But here is Rachel, or Bilhah's maid, conceives again and has Naphtali, my struggle. So now we have six boys in the family, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, and then Naphtali, right? So you look at Naphtali. So we hit verse 9 again. And the struggle continues, right? When Leah saw that she had left off bearing, and now this has happened. Rachel has given her Bilhah, and Rachel has decided that Bilhah's children are her own. Well then, like a lot of sin, she pulls somebody else into it, right? And that is a danger, right? When you fall into sin, you know, somebody is going to observe what you have done, and especially, you know, if you are, known as a Christian, if you are known, they're the Sunday school teacher, they're the piano player, they're the, whatever, they're the wife of the pastor. So certainly what they're doing must be acceptable, right? And then you find, you pull somebody else into your sin, right? And that happens a lot, more often than I think anybody cares to admit. That's why one of the reasons why you have to be careful who you hang around with, right? I always say that if you want to know who you are, look at your friends, because that's who you are. And you can argue all you want. I'm not like that. Yeah, you hang around them, you probably are exactly like them, right? If you get along with them that well, that's who you are. And Leah here sees what Rachel has done. She hasn't had any children in a while, so she takes her maid, Zilpah, and gives Zilpah to Jacob to wife. And then Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son, it says. And Leah said, a troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. Gad. Gad means good fortune, or a troop, right? Exactly what it says. It's troop, good fortune. Then now she's had a troop of kids. She's had a bunch of kids. She's excited about having more children. Never mind the fact that they're not actually her children. Never mind the fact that they're not actually her children, right? So she has Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher, right? Asher. Now, Asher is loosely means happy, right? So now she's happy that now, she kind of credits herself with having six kids in this instance, and so it's happy. So again, and I won't spend too much time on it, because what time is it actually? Okay, that's about 10 minutes slow, I think. So we have Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and now Asher joins the troop, if you will, and he's happy, right? That's what his name is happy in this, certainly in this instance when you look at it. And so we have a kind of an aside here in the family. And if anybody has anything they want to put in here, where Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, found mandrakes in the field, brought them into his mother Leah. And this is still internal chaos in the family, right? Because we understand what Leah asks for here. And it says that he brought them in. Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? Right? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. I don't know what the right wording would be without being offensive, but this is like a very catty episode, right? Leah's son Reuben gets mandrakes. Now, mandrakes at the time are considered, to help with fertility, an aphrodisiac, those things, right? So that's the assumption, that Rachel sees these mandrakes and thinks, rightfully, that she still hasn't had kids. And so she wants these mandrakes to help her have kids with Jacob. All right? That's the importance of the mandrakes. It's not like it's a flower that she thought was pretty and wanted to keep it. They were like used for fertility at that time. That's what they believed they did. And so Rachel sees that Leah has it. And I think Rachel is kind of like a twofold thing here. She doesn't want Leah to have any more kids, but she wants to have some kids too. And so she says, hey, why don't you give me some of those mandrakes? Leah is in such a state of mind, and this is what envy, strife, and sin will put you in. The equivalency of taking the mandrakes versus stealing your husband, like, those aren't equivalent at all. But she equivalent. Oh, you already took my husband, and now you want my mandrakes, right? And it's kind of like, really? Like, those aren't the same, same worth or value, but she is giving them the same value because she's really upset at Rachel, right? I have to say that at this moment, these two sisters are probably not sending each other Christmas cards, right? And I realize this is before Christmas, but they're not sending each other Christmas cards at this moment, right? At all. But she's like, oh, you took my husband, and now you want the mandrakes. Never mind the fact, of course, that Leah has had the 4 children. Rachel hasn't had any children, and that's why I say, and I hope it's not offensive, or maybe I should hope it's offensive, but this is a very catty episode. They're just, going at each other here. But Leah says, or Rachel says, I will hire thee with your son's mandrakes, and I will send Jacob to lie with you tonight. Anybody else see like insanity in this whole scene? Where's Jacob in this? And I wonder, what has Jacob been teaching his wives, right? At this moment, it's he has really failed, probably, in his duties as a spiritual leader in the family here. Now, and I'm not excusing Rachel and Leah or Bilhah or Zilpah, because let's face it, Jacob has got to be in a difficult situation here, right? Because most men would want to try to keep everybody happy, right? Happening here, it's not happening. So she says, fine, you can have him for one night if you give me the mandrakes, right? So they're like trading baseball cards here. And this is what happens, right? So Leah says, Leah obviously acquiesces, gives the mandrakes, but it says, and God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the 5th son. Notice here, and we won't dwell on this too much, that if you took the account of Rachel and Leah, what son would this have been according to like Rachel's count and Leah's count? This would be 7. God doesn't see those 2 as Leah's. God doesn't see those 2 as Rachel's, right? It's her 5th, right? It's her 5th, right? So God gives her the fifth son, right? She conceived, bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. She called his name Issachar. Issachar. Issachar means reward. How about you go through life figuring out why you were named reward, Issachar? Where'd you come up with my name? Well, there were these mandrakes, right? I don't know how you explain that to your children from that point on. And we'll leave it there so we don't get into troubling territory here. But yeah, Issachar, reward. This is her reward. And then she's conceived again, right, and bare Jacob the sixth son. It's kind of funny to me, and again, I'm trying to tread lightly. I know we don't need to tread lightly around the Word of God, but just being cognizant that, you know, she obviously didn't have to trade the mandrakes for one night, right? Because she has another child, and it doesn't give an account of her trading mandrakes again, right? So Jacob still is with her. She bare him a sixth son. Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him six sons, and she called his name Zebulun, which is honor, right? And of course, we know that there is still schism in the family from this point on, right? She has one point in her life where she has Judah, and she praises God for his goodness, and then she's back to fighting for the attentions of her husband, right? And I think that's partly Rachel's fault, because Rachel has drug her back into the sibling rivalry with the children, right? So you have to be careful with that, being a stumbling block for your brother, right? In this case, sister, right? But I honestly believe that when she had Judah, she praised God. She was like, well, praise the Lord for that. And then Rachel, started envying and started that rivalry back up, and then it just drew Leah back into it. It's drawn her back into it. So here she has her sixth son, names his name Zebulun, which means honor. And afterwards she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah, and that means judged when you look at that word, judged. So a difficult word there. So she had Dinah, right? And Dinah is the last child of Leah. Now Leah has had 7 children: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Dinah, right? And so she has 7 children out of the 13. So she has had the vast majority of Jacob's children, right? At this time, there's 4 others in the family. There's Dan and Naphtali from Bilhah, Gad and Asher from Zilpah. And so we get to this point. After here, in verse number 22, it says, and God remembered Rachel, right? And I know that this is that same lesson from time and time again, that God is faithful and that we ought to trust God's plans. If Rachel had trusted God's plans, she wouldn't have had to go through a lot of the strife that she went through. Now, we talked about providence. Was that 2 weeks ago? And God's sovereignty in this, and God's providence, he uses the situation, right? Because God knew what was coming, the end from the beginning, and he uses the situation. Would anybody say that Leah and Rachel and Jacob have been in God's perfect will this whole time? No, right? This is permissive will territory. That this isn't what God wanted, would have wanted from the beginning, right? That he would want them to be faithful to him, one man, one woman, right? But permissive will allows this to happen, and then God uses it in his sovereignty. He uses it for his plans when you look at it. That's foreknowledge, right? Nothing surprised him about this situation. He knew the envy that was going to happen. He knew the kind of the bickering and the deceit that was going to go back and forth, and he used it in this. So I don't want anybody to think that they thwarted God's, but this certainly wouldn't be his perfect will. It wouldn't have been for their life. Just like his perfect will for our lives is that we would be holy unto him and never sin. But he knows that we will sin, and in his foreknowledge, he uses those situations to work for good in all things, right? So here we have this. God remembered Rachel, right? So God had a plan for Rachel the whole time, right? This doesn't mean that God remembered. It means that it was the next step in his program. It doesn't mean that God had forgotten her and went, oh yeah, I intended to Rachel to have a child. That's not what that means, right? It's a symbolic of the fact that it has come to the moment when God was going to bless Rachel, right? That's what it means. He remembered Rachel, hearkened unto her, and opened her womb. She conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach, right? He hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, right? And said, the Lord shall add to me another son, right? Joseph is another one of those names that, like, I feel like that's a tough conversation to have with your kid. Hey, why did you call me Joseph? Because I wanted another kid after you, right? Because Joseph's name means may he add, right? So she named her son may he add because she said, the Lord shall add to me another son, right? So this is Joseph, the first of my two, right? And it's probably not as bad as Issachar, explaining reward to him. But here's Joseph. She has Joseph, her firstborn, at this, and she names him may he add, right? Rejoices that God hath taken away her reproach. I think she comes to understand that those other two kids weren't hers, right? That they were a reproach. And, you know, we talk about sin and we talk about envy leading to more and more sin. Scripture doesn't necessarily tell us this, but I always think about the fact that, can you imagine raising Dan and Naphtali knowing that they were your replacement kids, that you wanted them to be your child, knowing that they weren't, right? And so when she says he hath taken away my reproach, it has that feeling that she understood her sin, that she understood that she hadn't had kids yet, and now she has them, right? Now she has one, right? Joseph. May he add, may he add. And of course it says, and when Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, and then we have the whole account here where Jacob, and this will be part of next week's lesson, Jacob ends up trying to collect the wages, and we have the accounts of of him finally getting to leave after keeping a flock, the straked and the ring straked and those, and then they go, and I'll leave that for next week. But he's not done with children yet, right? He's not done with children yet. There's one more child. We've named Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Dinah, and Joseph. Who's missing? Who's left? Benjamin, right? The youngest. Benjamin is left. And the tragic story about, of course, Benjamin is that Rachel dies, right? Giving birth, right? She gives birth to Benjamin and dies. And Benjamin's name is son of the right hand, given by Jacob, right? Son of the right hand. And they said that it's a contrast of Benoni, which is son of my sorrow. So it's kind of a memorial there for Rachel. And we know, later on, as Joseph is in Egypt, that Benjamin has a close spot to Jacob's heart, right? To Jacob's heart. So Benjamin's the only son named, or that we're told specifically is named by Jacob. He names him, son of my right hand, right? That's what he named him there when you have Benjamin. You look at the sons of Jacob, and more than a few of them have a lot of things listed out of problems they had in their lives, if you will. Reuben is one of the first ones that we're told has kind of a downfall, and he gets his firstborn rights stripped from him because he actually sleeps with Bilhah later on, Genesis 5 there. And it's kind of one of those situations where when you read into it, he may have been trying to usurp authority from his dad in certain cases from there. But you have Reuben that does this, right? He gets stripped of his firstborn rights. Jacob's final words to him in Genesis 49, he relates him to being unstable as water and passes the judgment on him that he'll not excel, right, because of his immorality and disrespect. Really cost him special privileges that he should have had as the firstborn. And of course that travels through that. Simeon and Levi, known for their brutality and their anger. That's what they get known by. When you think of Simeon and when you think of Levi, I don't know, and I guess I'll ask the question: what event do you think of in Simeon and when Simeon and Levi? Now I understand that Levi, right, priesthood, things like that, the tribe, but the boys, Simeon and Levi. Anybody think of what account? What's that? Joseph. Yep. Simeon was like key in trying to, let's kill him. Right? And of course they end up selling him, right? But what else? There's another big event Simeon and Levi are equated with that is just as brutal. And it's when Dinah gets raped, right? What do Simeon and Levi do? The two brothers do something. Anybody remember your biblical history? Then they massacre all the men of an entire town, right? And they do it by telling them to go get circumcised, and then they wait 2 days. I can't remember the wording of the scripture. It's in, but they were sore, right? Well, they were unable to defend themselves. So these two men, Simeon and Levi, come in and literally butcher every man in the town. And after they had lied to them, right? Oh yeah. You can have, because the one was in love with Dinah, right? And wanted to marry her. Well, you all have to get circumcised. And then they went and killed them all, right? They're known for that. That's brutality, right, there. So they are really known for not being the nicest peacemakers, right? And of course, Jacob condemns them. He says, I will divide them and scatter them in Israel, right? Now, interesting enough, God uses that. Because what happened with the tribe of Levi? They were scattered, right? They didn't have a place of their own. They were scattered throughout all the other tribes of Israel there. So they get scattered about. And Simeon's territory was absorbed into the territory of Judah at the division. So yeah, they lost their inheritance. They were scattered in Israel from that point on. So you had Simeon, you had Levi. Judah, what was Judah's sins? Anybody remember Judah? Now Judah has a big account in the Bible of his sin, and it's kind of two-part. The first part of it led to the second part of it, right? And it's in relationship to who did Judah marry? Anybody remember? I'm waxing, I'm taxing, not waxing. I'm taxing your Old Testament. I know you've all read it, and you all know it probably. But who did Judah marry? Right, her name was Shua. She was a Canaanite. Right? He went and he had 3 children by her: Onan, and Shelah. And then got married to Tamar. Right? And what happened? God killed him, right? And then what did Jacob do? Or Judah, sorry, I said Jacob there. Judah, he sent his brother, right? Okay, Onan, you need to go and raise up a son to And what did Onan do? He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He killed him. So then Judah said, well, I don't want my third son to die. So he promises that when he's older, that he'll give him to her. Then what does he do? He doesn't. But it's worse than that, because Tamar, well, you all know the story, I think. Judah ends up having a relationship with Tamar and gets her pregnant. He keeps, his token, and then it's almost like, you think of the account there, who's done this to you, blah, 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 and then it's him. And then it's him, right? So Judah goes through all of this stuff as well. Now Judah, I think we're shown really kind of how his heart has changed throughout that. With Tamar, he exclaims that famous, and I don't have it pulled up, where she was more righteous than I, right? Where he comes to the realization of what he had done, right? He's face to face with it. He's like, well, even though she did what she did, she was more righteous in her actions than I was, right? And I think there's an element there. And then later on, you see the compassion that Judah has for his brothers with Joseph when they don't know Joseph is Joseph, and Judah tries to stand up and do these things right that keep me rather than them, things like that. If I remember right, and somebody, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the account there of Joseph, isn't it Simeon that Jacob says to keep? Because he's like, one of the least favored at that point. I think he says, "Oh, we'll leave Simeon. Take Simeon instead of Benjamin. Leave him over there." And so it's like, oh, well, that's a story for another time, I guess. But so you have Judah. He goes through those, some of those problems. Of course, Dan has the problems that they have when you look at that. And other than that, we know Joseph. Joseph's life is a testimony to faithfulness as we look at it through there. But I think we're getting pretty late there. So those are the kids. They'd probably fit right in America today. Probably fit right in as a family. So Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Dinah, Joseph, Benjamin. The quiz will be next week. If you fail the quiz, you'll be excommunicated out of from that point. Open book test. But again, I look at the names of it, and maybe the lesson wasn't as interesting to others as it is to me, but I look at the way that they name their children, and it's like, how crazy, in the grand scheme of things, that you can almost see the pattern of the family through the names of the kids as it travels through there. Behold a son, he's hurt me, now my husband will be attached to me, I'm going to praise the Lord. Judge, there's judgment here, my struggle, good fortune, happy, reward, honor, judged, may he add, and then son of the right hand. You could go through the family history as it goes there. So, all right. Any other thoughts? All right. Nothing else? It's still 12 till, somewhere. What'd you say? The dinner table was probably an awkward place. I wonder who blamed who. Dan. All right. Well, let's get some notes here. All right. Prayer requests. What do we got?
For Brother Juan and his family.
What's that?
For Brother Juan and his family.
I didn't. He said he was going to message me on it today. but he never did. So I'll message him tonight after we're done here. So Brother Juan.